Hey, hey. Okay, it's on. I I'm not an educator like Eric, so I don't know how to handle crowds like this. So sit down. Is that how you do it? Thank you. Golly molly, this is a lot of people. My name's Keith. I'm Eric's brother. And before you bombard his mother with a bunch of questions, technically it's brother-in-law, but we didn't treat it that way. I told Eric that I wanted to wear a Dodger hat in a church to see if I could get away with it. And he said, well, if you get away with it, you need to tell people the truth. And the truth is, I'm a Chicago White Sox fan. And Eric said, when you get up there, when you first start talking to everybody, I don't care how many people are there, big crowd, small crowd, whatever. I want you to appreciate that there will be more people present than the average White Sox home game. I'm not going to do a head count, but the eyeball test says that it's close. Nobody is here because Eric died. Everybody is here because Eric lived. So we're going to tell some stories, and we're going to sing some songs. We got 90 minutes in here, so it's going to be kind of tight. We haven't decided who's getting bumped from the list. But Shannon, if it's Dan Doctor, just blink twice. Shannon.
Wow. Thank you for all coming today. Eric told me we needed to have the service here, not only because this is where we got married 19 years ago and where he taught the children's chorus many years ago, but because we needed a really big space because there was going to be a lot of people coming to this. And I guess he was right. He was well loved, and he loved a lot of people. There has been so much outpouring of love in these last few weeks, months really, years. So many stories have been shared, reminding me that Eric's love of people was truly at the core of who he was. He just loved talking to people and getting to know them. He would talk to anybody. He had a way of making people feel comfortable and disarming them and letting him in. He could see through people's facades, the BS. He saw the good in people. He loved helping people find their true potential. And he really believed that that was why he was a teacher. He thought about becoming lots of different kinds of teachers, but music was the vehicle for love. He championed you because he saw the potential in you most often before you did. And he was honest. He would tell you what he thought. And I probably think he told all of you at some point, what he thought about something you were doing. He acted like he didn't care what anyone thought about him. He brought that edge to the world, tried to act like it didn't bother him, but all he ever really wanted was to be loved and to love other people. And I guess that's what life is really about, right? It's about love. One of the things Eric always talked about was his legacy and what that would be. What would he leave behind? I think that's why he fought for so long and for so hard. He lived a lot longer than we ever thought he would. And I don't know if he really understood what his legacy was, but I know that his legacy was love. And I could see that by all the people that are here today. And I did tell him that that was his legacy. in those last few hours that we spent together. And I like to think that he heard me and was able to internalize that. So today is not just a celebration of his life, but a time to remember the legacy of love that Eric brought to all of our lives. And I hope you will continue to show that love throughout your life to other people. I'm gonna get it together. Okay, the first musical selection that I chose, because I believed it's Eric's heart song, and really what he was truly trying to tell people about what he thought about life. Eric sang the song, conducted this piece with many of the people in this room. It's called Cells, Planets, and it talks about the connection between everything in our universe, how all people are ultimately the same, and that love is the center of that. I'm also going to sing the song for Eric, because he always said how much he loved my voice, and that he fell in love with me when he heard me sing the first time. I never believed that, but that's what he always said. So I hope this song helps you all know Eric's heart so that you can continue his legacy of love. Hey. The stars will open up and all will be tiny pieces of galaxy reflected in you and me. Cells, planets, same thing. Cells, planets, same thing. Cells, planets, same thing. Ooh, bright electric lights on all the leaves and everything growing on a tree. The water's blood and roots I don't know you, but I like you. I don't know you, but I miss you. I don't know you, but I need you. Smallest is the biggest thing, and in all the world, the love is the love from me to you. I don't know you. I miss you. I need you, but I need you. I don't know you. I miss you. I need you. I need you. I don't know you, but I need you. Cells, planets, same thing. Cells, planets, same thing. Cells, planets, same thing.
Wow, that was beautiful. I knew I should have gone first. Okay. Do you know the top is full too? I just noticed that. Eric and I worked on everything I'm about to tell you. We talked about this day a lot. And it was very therapeutic. Now look, it ain't the Gettysburg Address, okay? I estimate that we lost about a year in the creative process telling jokes that I'll never repeat here and making references to old baseball players. So we might have a conversation where I would say, do you think we should include something about our trip to Maui? And he would say, hey, you remember Marquise Grissom? And we wouldn't even discuss the players, and I'd say, yeah. You remember Mark Grudzielanek? Yeah, who doesn't know Mark Grudzielanek? At one point I said, okay, look, it can't be just jokes and references to 80s and 90s era baseball players. He said, why not? I said, because. So we made an agreement, And that would be that let's start with humor, and I'd end with humor. Eric was my best friend, and we would often greet each other that way. Hey, best friend. And we thought it was funny because we didn't like each other. Not at first, no, I didn't. I didn't like Eric. And I went back and I told his sister-in-law, now my wife Stephanie, Eric's got a big mouth. And she said, you also have a big mouth. And I went back to Eric, I said, you know what Stephanie said about me? He said, yeah, I hear it from Shannon. So I knew then that we had at least one thing in common. It's not hyperbole to say that since meeting Eric, he has been influential in every major decision I have made in my life. As a son, a husband, and a father. I really don't know if I would have made it in the Coogan family were it not for him. These are educated, hardworking, compassionate, fiercely independent women. And from the time I was introduced to the family, Eric was my shepherd. One night in particular really sticks out. Lasagna at Debbie's house. It was Debbie, me, Stephanie, Shannon, and Eric. During dinner, the four of them start picking apart a very specific part of a musical. Now, when I tell the story, it's always South Pacific, but it was not South Pacific. I just don't have many musicals to pull from. And they're picking it apart the way you might pick apart an old baseball game or something like that. I couldn't keep up. I was a new guy, there's a lot of smiling and nodding. And I asked him about it later, and Eric said, yeah, I could tell you're having trouble keeping up. So after dinner, he asked me down to the living room. And I thought maybe Eric was a baseball fan. He was always in a Dodger cap, but 3 out of every 4 people out there are wearing a Dodger cap. You see somebody wearing a White Sox hat, they're a White Sox fan. We are not a proud bunch. So he wanted to tell me about a baseball player, and that baseball player was Corey Seager. And you might know the name Corey Seager. A lot of even casual fans will know that name. He's a 2-time World Series MVP with the Los Angeles Dodgers. But at that time, he was not a World Series MVP. And at that time, he was not with the Los Angeles Dodgers. And when we were telling this story, I actually had to look it up. When Eric told me about this guy, he was with the Ogden Raptors of the Pioneer League. So I knew he was a baseball nerd, like me. Every life event, big and small, Eric was in my corner. It was a special relationship. In my adult life, outside of my father, Eric was the first man that told me he loved me. He just threw it out there. I didn't know you could do that. He didn't say it, he wrote it in a card, which I think means more. He gave it to me shortly before my daughter was born. And in the card he wrote, I'm here for you if you need anything. Anything, all caps, underline, exclamation marks. Now look, it was sweet, and it moved me. It really did. That was my first thought. My second thought, and it was fleeting, but I'll be honest with you. I was honest with him. I thought, if this clown can figure out fatherhood, I'm sure I'll be fine. My daughter was born at 7:07 p.m. Man, I called that boy before Jeopardy was back from commercial break. I said, Eric, you didn't tell me about cutting the umbilical cord. He said, well, you have seen that in a movie, right? I said, yeah, I didn't know they always ask that. I thought that was like mostly a movie thing. Next time I saw him, he didn't have to say a word to crack a joke. He walked up to me like this. One of the most important conversations I've ever had in my life was with Eric. Not the most important. I wouldn't give him the satisfaction, but it's top 5. It was the week of Thanksgiving. Debbie, Shannon, Harper, and Eric had come to Las Vegas to celebrate the holiday, and I had lost my voice bad. My wife and I are season ticket holders for the Vegas Golden Knights, the hockey club. Often, and especially in the early years, I'd completely lose my voice at a game because someone has to let the officials know when they made a bad call. Eric walked through the door. I squeaked out a, "Hey, best friend." And you know what he said first, right? "Congratulations on hitting puberty." I remember my first beer. We settled, got a beverage, threw a game on, and I asked him, I said, "I need you to help me out. I'm an adult. I can't continue to show up to the office sounding like this. Isn't voice like your entire education and career? Help me out, man." And Eric said, "Well, Keith, you're yelling from the wrong place." I said, "Well, Eric, there's season tickets. I'll be in the same place every game." "And what is this?" Eric eventually gave me some advice, and inevitably, the discussion turned to his career. Obviously, we talked baseball a lot, and that enthusiasm was only rivaled when Eric would talk about teaching. Man, he loved it, and I loved hearing him talk about it. His energy was infectious. Full disclosure, I told him he was crazy on multiple occasions. The time, effort, resources, blood, sweat, tears he invested into education stretched far beyond the opening and closing bell. And in case some of you Californians are a little too close to the trees to see the forest, let me tell you how this works in other parts of the country. I'm from southern Indiana. My high school has a choir. It's called the choir, and it's the choir. Let me tell you what we don't have. The Viking Chamber Choir, the Concert Choir, the Valkyrie Women's Ensemble, the Norseman Choir, the Siren Chorus. And you know what I'm just starting to appreciate? That there were a lot of smaller singing groups without a name that Eric just constructed because the goal was to get the most out of every student, even if you have to mix up the lineup. Believe it or not, I've heard the names of a lot of people in this room. Oh yeah, Eric talked about his students all the time. He even told me he thought some of the boys joined only because there were girls in the choir. He didn't care. He just wanted students to leave with a greater appreciation for the arts. And I think the attendance today indicates that that mission was accomplished. On this day, I asked Eric, "Could you take anyone and teach them how to sing? Could you teach someone like me to sing?" And you know what he said? He said there's a lot of people that can sing and sing well, but don't, because ours is a culture that discourages people from something like singing because they're not good at it. He told me that they don't have this problem in other countries. And he was very knowledgeable regarding the place that artistic expression holds in cultures all over the world. He said singing, dancing, in all its forms is celebrated, and he wished we were a little bit more like that. Now, this is where my part was going to end. I was going to tell you to take a lesson from my brother, sing, dance without reservation. But about a year ago, I was talking with Eric, and I asked him some questions about today. And I said, "Hey, will any of your former students be there?" He said, yeah, I hope so. He was humble about it. I said, "Colleagues, high school, college, people like that?" He said, "Sure." I said, "I'm going to wrap up by telling these people they need to sing and dance more." "I don't know, bro. I don't think they need to hear that from me." So at that time, we decided to give you one more. A while back, Eric and I were talking on the phone. I was in my backyard in Las Vegas with an adult beverage and a cigar. He was in his backyard in Long Beach with an adult beverage and a cigar. Since Eric's diagnosis, often our discussion turned to one question. Why? Why Eric? Why not me? Why not you? And sometimes our conversation turned to faith. Eric believed in God. And as someone who has explored faith for more of my life than not, Eric was a great person to talk to about the subject. He never tried to push anything. Like Shannon was saying earlier, he just enjoyed seeing other perspectives, the conversation, whether he agreed with you or not. And on that day, we talked about a story which is not mine to tell, so I will not go into great detail. But if you're unaware, welcoming Harper to this world was not easy. We're very, very fortunate to have someone so kind, empathetic, respectful, fair, resilient, with endless curiosity and boundless enthusiasm. I watched Eric and Shannon work feverishly, leave no stone unturned to ensure that Harper had every opportunity to have a happy, healthy, productive life. At times, it felt like they needed a miracle, and that miracle needed Shannon and Eric. So on this day, in our backyards, 300 miles apart, Eric said, well, maybe in the cosmic chess match that's being played here, there, anywhere, this is the balance that needs to exist in the universe. It was a really good cigar. And I asked him, what would you think of that? And he said, that makes all this a lot easier. And it sat there, and it was peaceful and powerful at the same time. And I broke the silence by saying, sometimes you got to trade a pawn for a queen. I've never known a loss like this. It hurts terribly. And I share that because before Eric entered my life, there is no way I would have said that out loud in front of this many people. But I will tell you this. There are people who live twice as long and do half as much as Eric Michael Graham. And if any of us has a tenth of the positive influence that he did, we've done well. He set a remarkably high bar, and that might be a bar that's only reached by an educator. It is the most noble profession. And because I am a person who keeps his promises, and I told Eric I would start and finish with a laugh, I have to be honest with you. That pawn and queen comment was a joke about his height. Eric was not a tall man. That was my go-to. He responded with his bread and butter, which was to ask me if I'm having my hats custom made yet, because he thought my head was comically large. And he said it all the time. It's a 7 5/8, bro. They sell it at every hat store in America. I love you. I'll miss you. Stephanie.
Whew. Oh, yeah, okay. The last time I was here and someone let me use a microphone was Shannon and Eric's wedding. Man, that went fast. I am Eric's sister-in-law and Shannon's sister. I've known Eric since the first time they dated. They did date 2 times, for those who don't know that story. And Shannon has been my best friend and the best big sister since I was born. So naturally, when they met, I did as every little sister does. I gave him the hardest time ever. And as her best friend, I took it upon myself to make sure that Eric knew that if he would hurt her, he answered to me. Luckily, I never had to have that conversation and handle that situation, because that's not who Eric was. I had many stories that I wanted to share here today, and I thought about sharing the time that Shannon and Eric came to Boston visited me, and he was decked out in Dodgers gear, and of course we went to see the Angels play at Fenway Park, so not the right crowd. As you know, my family and I live in Vegas, and one time the Grahams came to visit us, and Harper was maybe about 3 years old. We had gone to Mandalay Bay to see the aquarium there. And before we left, we decided to stop at this little lounge place for some adult beverages and some snacks. So we all ordered our drinks. Keith got a beer. Shannon and I ordered some overpriced cocktails from the Strip. And Eric, in his, what I like to call his early mixologist days, ordered some fancy schmancy brown liquor. And after we had pretty much finished up our beverages and were hanging out, the server came back and said, "Would you like another?" Eric did not miss a beat, and he says, "Not at that price point." Because indeed, that price was quite high. And Eric sort of just shrugged in his little way and was like, "Well, it is." It was one of the funniest responses that I think I've had come out of Eric in a long time. But what I love about it was he didn't give the usual answer that most of us would give. He didn't give the, "Oh, no, I'll try something else." He gave the honest and to the point, but also not rude response. And I have said that phrase so many times since that day. Say it to my kid all the time, "Not at that price point." And I plan to continue to use that phrase as often as possible, and I encourage all of you to sprinkle it in as a tribute to Eric. Thank you all so much for being here today. It means the world to us. And to continue to honor my favorite bartender and mixologist, I will hand it over.
Hi. I'm going to teach you a song. I'm going to scaffold this song for you. There's only 4 words. You can do this. Ein. Ein Prosit. It's a tall I at the end, singers. Ein Prosit. Der Gemütlichkeit. 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 Ein Prosit der Gemütlichkeit. It means I drink to people who give me warmth and who I love to be around. And it's going to be our toast after these, after each little speaker that we're going to have. So, Alex, if you would just give us a little what they're, let's just learn the melody. So it goes like this. Ein Prosit der Gemütlichkeit. Ein Prosit der Gemütlichkeit. Let's do that one more time. That's pretty good. It's on your thing, too, for those of you who read these weird notes. I can't read music, but here. 2. Ein Prosit der Gemütlichkeit. Ein Prosit der Gemütlichkeit. And then there's a little tradition. If you're in a beer hall in Munich, as we were on tour with Eric and some of you in this room in 2004, you'll hear them go, zicka, 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 hoy, 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 zicka, 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 hoy, hoy, hoy. So I lied, there's a few more words. Say, zicka, 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 zicka. Ho- zicka, 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 hoy, hoy, hoy. And then we have eins, zwei, drei, gesiffa, Prost. And that means drink. Prost. We can't drink in the church. So at certain points, you'll hear this. 2. Ein Prosit der Gemütlichkeit. Ein Prosit der Gemütlichkeit. Zicka, 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 hoi, hoi, hoi. Zicka, 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 hoi, hoi, hoi. Eins, zwei, drei. You got it.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name's EJ, and I've had the pleasure of being part of Eric and Shannon's lives for like 24 years now, which is crazy when you think about it. And I have two stories for you. One is about compassion, and the other one is about joy. So back in 2001, I was accepted into the music program at Long Beach, and I wanted to go to whatever choir was going to China. That's all I knew. And so I auditioned, and they made a mistake and let me in. And so I still remember the day I was walking into the choir room, walking up the tiered steps, and I understood that I was out of my depth. And almost like a beacon, there was Eric's smile, that one. And he kind of welcomed me in, and I told him I was freaked out. And he told me, just stick with me, I got you. And he did. From that day forward, he made me sit next to him, corrected my notes, thank God, told me to sing softer sometimes. And I think what I learned from Eric was to be compassionate. Because you never know who's walking up those tiered steps and how long you'll be in each other's lives. So that's what I think about when I think about Eric, is his smile and his compassion toward those of us who don't know, but who want to know. My second story is about joy. On that same China trip, during a day off in Shanghai, Eric, a friend of ours who passed away about 14 years ago, Anthony and I, noticed that there was a basketball court outside of this hotel. And it was a day off, and at that point we were young and spry, and we didn't, we weren't 43 and hurting. So we decided we wanted to go play basketball. And so we put our shoes on and our shorts. We went outside. It was raining, but we wanted to play. So we asked with pointing, and we're like, can we? And they were like, sure. So we began to play, and it rained, and we played. And I still remember Eric. Eric had a really nice crossover back in the day, way back in the day. And I remember watching people try to copy him on the side as we played that game. And I think about that moment. And I'd like to think, so just so you know, I'm a theologian by trade. I have a degree in I don't know what, right? But I tell my students that I think if something exists after this, and we call it heaven, whatever that is, that it might be the moment where you feel time stand still and you feel joy. And if you pause that moment and stretch it out across eternity, that might be what we're expecting. So I'd like to think that maybe Anthony and Eric continue that pickup game. So, as we continue this, let us raise a glass to Eric's compassion and joy. Take it away.
All right. Look at all of these human beings. Wow. As you've heard already before, Eric was loved, and it's evident right now. My name is Dan Doctor. I met Eric like a lot of these people did, where I stumbled upon him and Shannon at Cal State Long Beach, which was quite a joy to very many of us. I knew I liked him right away for many reasons. Of course, this smile people keep talking about, it's kind of a one of a kind, right? Super inviting. He and I were both crazy competitive. We both love sports, which isn't something that all choir kids like at all. I also think that I don't want to like self-diagnose us as like rock stars, but we as far as choir boys go, we were kind of naughty. A little bit. I mean, we would, we'd and it's not just, the we is not just me and Eric. Like, we had quite the crew. I almost want everyone to stand up. Like, we had the crew. Man, I did not I was going to set a timer. I didn't do that. This is going to be bad. All right, we're going to go. Anyway, we'd sneak the occasional beer in between classes. He and I would go, once we got older into our professions, we'd go to these professional development events, whether it was ACDA conferences or ECHO. And we all had, Eric and I had our choral threshold. We would take it in as much as we could, and then we would escape to go play ping pong until 2 hours up at ECHO. I see Eliza nodding. She caught us a couple of times. There was a casino there too that maybe we went to. So yeah, we were a little naughty. Eric also got immense joy out of being completely inappropriate at rehearsals. We would always try to make Talbert giggle or blush, and he was pretty good at that, I would say. So, I always thought of Eric as, just that great friend and colleague. And then, of course, it takes a moment like this to actually, take a breath and realize the impact that some of these people have in your lives, right? Come to find out, although he was all those things, he really was more of like a big brother figure. I never really kind of acknowledged him as that. But looking back on everything, that's what it was. Eric graduated before me and a lot of our colleagues, and he got a job. He grinded it out. He got a great job at Mayfair High School. I see you back there, Gina. And all of us undergrads were on looking like we were at the zoo, and he was like the monkey exhibit. We're looking through how's he gonna do that? How's he gonna do that? After that first year, he got another job. He went to Marina, and he thoughtfully reached out to me. He mentored me and helped me apply and gave me advice. He really held my hand through that, and it was really largely him and the others at Long Beach State who guided me into that position. That launched us in, 2 years later, I went on to Peninsula High School where I'm currently teaching, and this, about a 10-year period of Eric and I, and Shannon, and my wife Stephanie, we'd gather once or twice a month for dinner, and Eric and I would get our old fashions out and cry into our drinks about what's going well in our programs and what we needed to fix and who we want to be as good as. And this was really a therapy moment for me with Eric. He knew when you needed to hear something you needed to hear, not what we wanted to hear. Right? He would say what you needed to hear, but he was also very capable of just listening. And I know that he gave that to so many hundreds of students at Mayfair and Marina over these years. So, after about that 10-year time period, our families, my wife and my family, and Shannon and Eric, had a family. Harper was born. My daughter Claire was born. And then it became less talking about work and more just talking about life and a whole new set of happiness, which were some of the more special times. I really, and I know my family, really appreciate the closeness that we have with the Grahams. We're transplants from Michigan, and so we don't have family out here. So we value that relationship that we have with you guys. Our families have gotten tight, and obviously we're missing now a big portion of that family, but I know that I can speak for my family saying that we, again, appreciate this new family we have and how important it is to continue that and to be in your lives. I know it helps us. So thank you very much. We're all obviously heartbroken that Eric is gone, but I think we're all thrilled that we're able to be here and to smile with him. So again, shall we raise our proverbial glass? Ein Prosit, ein Prosit.
Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Iskander. I was one of Eric Graham's students from 2016 to 2020 in Marina High School. And Mr. Graham had a profound impact on my life. The first time I met him actually was in passing. I was signing up as a freshman at Marina, and my mom wanted me to join the choir. And I could not think of anything worse in my life to do. And so she went and talked to Mr. Graham and the students, and I went the other way to hide in the library. And afterwards she said, "Michael, you should really join the choir. I really want you to sing." And I said, "I'm never doing that ever in my life." Fast forward a year later, and it's my sophomore year, and I was sitting in class next to another friend of mine named Jeannie Skidmore. Hi, Jeannie, I'm going to shout you out. And she said, "Hey, so I'm in the choir program, and my choir director, Mr. Graham, needs boys. And so he's going to give any girl that can get a boy to audition $10. So you don't have to join, but could you do me a favor, and could you audition so I can get $10? I said, "Yeah, sure, as long as I don't have to get in the choir." She said, "Okay." So later that day I went, and I officially met Eric. And he was very sweet and very kind, and he had that same smile. He said, "Hi, I'm Mr. Graham. Nice to meet you. What's your name?" I said, "I'm Michael." He said, "All right, are you interested in joining choir?" I said, "No, but I'm just getting her at $10. He said, "All right, we'll come into the practice room." And he did some tests. And then he looked at me afterwards and he said, "Yeah, you're going to be in choir. And it's not up to you. It's up to me." And I thought he was joking. But the next day I came and my schedule was changed. So ever since then, he took care of me, and he was with me, and he said, "You're going to be a singer. I don't care what I'm going to do, but you're going to be in this choir." And he gave me my first solo. He put me in my first musical, and Shannon, you said that he was brutally honest. He very much was brutally honest. I remember one time we were rehearsing for In the Heights, and he cast me as Usnavi, and I don't know why he was doing that, because I'd never done any musical stuff in my life before. And 2 weeks before opening, he goes, in front of everybody, we're all sitting down for notes, and finally my turn comes, and I'm supposed to be the lead of this musical, and he goes, "Michael, so you just did a run of whatever that was, and that sucked." I don't know what you think you're doing, but the show opens in 2 weeks, and you got to change something. And I think he knew exactly what he was doing, because a few months later, when we did the regional competition for the Macy's, the show ended up winning Best Musical. And he always knew what to say. And it wasn't just about being nice, it was about truth, and it was about actually impacting his students, about actually motivating them. And him and I would talk a lot, and he became a father figure to me, really. And we would talk about faith a lot, and he knew how much important my faith was. And I always wanted to sing Mary Did You Know? And my senior year came the winter concert, and I knew that, every year people would be singing this song and would audition with it, but it kind of wouldn't work out because Marina's a public school, and that song was a little too religious. And so I did an audition. And he was like, "You did an audition for the thing?" I was like, "Yeah, well, I wanted to do Mary Did You Know, but I know you're going to say no." And he was like, "Yeah, I would have said no." But then I knew we had a performance in a church a week later, and I said, "Could I sing Mary Did You Know at that church?" Since it's a church, and churches are mostly Christian. And he said, yeah, you could sing it there. And so I invited my mom, and I got to sing Mary Did You Know? And it meant a lot to me, and it meant a lot to her, and I think he knew how that song has affected my life. And on my way home, I got a random text, and he goes, "Hey, buddy, so you're going to sing Mary Did You Know at the winter concert, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, yes, sir, I'm going to sing it." But that was just I have so many stories about him, but that specifically for me, he knew how much it meant to me. And he was so kind, and he took a risk for me to be able to live out my dream. And his love for music, his love for students, his passion for his students, it inspired me to pursue a career in performance and in acting. And I was lucky enough to be on Broadway and to be in a musical called Kimberly Akimbo, to which you guys came and you saw. And that's the song that we're going to sing next is from this musical. And this musical is about how short life is, but how it's up to us to make the most out of it. And I think there's nobody who made the most out of his life than Eric. And not only his life, but he made the most out of everyone's lives around him. So please raise the glass to Eric.
Hi, my name is Stacy Kikawa, and I was lucky enough to conduct with Eric at Aerobear for many years, along with Alex Koppel here at the piano, and Tammy Alderman, who you saw during Cells Planets. This next song is called Great Adventure, and it is from the musical Kimberly Akimbo. And Michael, I don't know where you went, but I hope you know how proud he was of you in that production. And I remember that, because we could build in our own breaks, and he was like, nope, I gotta be at somewhere with Wi-Fi so I can watch Michael and the Jimmies. So I just want you to, I don't know where you went, but I just want you to know how important you were to him. It was so important that, to the point, that he could not wait to premiere this song at Aerobear with a transcription and a lot of faith in the Aerobear choral music team. It was this song that gave him actually the courage to tell the students about his diagnosis at Circle Time. If you don't know anything about this song or this musical, the story of the musical is about the journey of knowing that your life will end early. This song is the final song in the musical and highlights enjoying the time you have left with the people that you love. If you have the music, there's a moment on page 11 where it says, "Didn't know the paths we take, the sights we see, the friends we make, with you, my partner in crime." Let's just add a little bit of Eric's theatrical flair from Aerobear. And at that point, I would love for you to point to whoever your partner in crime is. Please smile and laugh while enjoying Great Adventure.
Hello, my name is Jason. Eric was my cousin. However, he was more like a brother to Jared and me. Our parents were both teachers and were off during the summer. Eric spent a lot of time with us during those summer months throughout the years. We would fight like brothers, but also play like brothers. We would play a lot of baseball, wiffle ball, catch. We never sang. Eric didn't sing back then. I don't know. But we were always outside. You have to remember, this was like 35 years ago, so our parents made us stay outside. And yes, we drank from the hose. As adults, we played softball together for several seasons. I will miss that the most. He was a great pitcher, just like his father, Bruce, and always a great competitor. I remember when Eric and Shannon were trying so hard to have a child. I thought there was no one who deserves to be a dad more. I was ecstatic when Harper came along. What a lucky girl to have Eric as a father. Rest easy, brother. Thank you.
My name is Daniel Klein. I knew Eric for about 20 years or so, and after listening to everyone to speak of Eric, the thing that really got me about him was how inclusive he was. I was this Altacacher from Fresno, California, joining the choir, and I knew nobody. And just like with EJ, it took me under his wing. He regretted it occasionally. He created a phrase that I'll edit for the church, basically, expletive Dan, because I was always saying something or coming up with an idea or something or whatnot. But Eric made me feel like something I never was before, and that was an older brother. Not that he would ever take the advice I gave him, but he gave me the opportunity, and he allowed me to help him out, whether it was hanging a ceiling fan or two, lights in the backyard, a new garage door opener. Was he afraid of heights? But he really brought me in at one point to his inner circle, as it was. One afternoon, I picked up Eric in a U-Haul. I don't remember if he offered to help me or if I talked him into helping me. Moving, of course, is what college people do, even at my age. And I was renting a room in a house in Seal Beach, and numerous trips back and forth from the room to the U-Haul, so on and so forth, every time navigating a dying dog on the couch, terribly stained carpets and sprinkling of stucco everywhere. We get into the car, he turns to me and laughingly asks, "How the heck did you live in that place?" And that was Eric, blend of concern and humor. So for these last 20 years, I felt like he was my best friend. And we would go out every once in a while. We'd run errands, pick up something for his house or equipment for a show or a concert, the occasional tool or item for my wife's honey-do list. And we'd grab a bite to eat, discuss our lives. And I had the pleasure of being included with a lot of his holiday celebrations, special occasions, and we would talk about our futures. And as things were getting close to Eric's passing, we talked about legacy. And he was so darn set on making sure that people remembered who he was. I think he wanted a choir room named after him, or a building, or at least a plaque on a wall somewhere. But his true legacy is his love for us all, everyone in this room. He loved us as a son, a husband, a father, a teacher, a mentor, as a friend. Eric's music, his kindness, his attention, his smart-ass remarks, and his love were his true legacy that brings us here today. I find myself angry at his leaving us. I will be sad that he and I will never watch another Dodgers game over a couple of drinks, or now I know to call it an adult cigar. Is that what it was? Or just a cigar of some sort? And I might even miss his occasional tap of welcome. Those of you who know. Those of you who don't, it's for you to decide. But I will mourn my friend today and in the few days to come. But I will always find joy and celebrate the love that he gave me. And I will continue to hope that he felt the same love for me. Zikrono livracha. May his memory be a blessing.
Hi. I didn't introduce myself properly. My name is Jonathan Tauberg. I was one of Eric's collegiate choir directors. I was a mentor throughout his entire adult life, and I was his friend. I'm also Shannon's friend. Eric was in the first class of students I taught at Long Beach State in 2000. He was bright, passionate, fun to be around, and a little bit lazy. He knew he was lazy, and he liked being lazy. I wanted him to practice more. I wanted him to get the straight A's that I knew he was capable of. But he wanted to hang out with his friends, watch Dodger games, and enjoy the finer and greener things in life. When Shannon and I spoke about Eric last week, she said to me, Eric was okay with being a flawed human, and he was honest about who he was. I've thought about it a lot, and I really think that's one of the biggest difference between Eric and the rest of us. Most of us struggle with the act of just being. Eric was. He was Eric, and he was happy being Eric, and we loved him for it. But he was also a really good musician and a world-class educator. 2000 was a long time ago, and the rules of engagement between college professors and college students was different. One of Eric's favorite activities was playing grab ass. Sorry, Jesus. No, really. Anytime he'd walked behind me, he'd grab my ass. He even did it once in front of the whole university choir. And as I stood there in stunned silence, which doesn't happen very often, he smiled and walked to his spot in the tenor section. I didn't know what to say, so I just went on. He became the tenor section leader and our ACDA student chapter president, and I knew he was bound to be a great teacher. But I had no idea just how great. His students loved singing, and they loved singing for him. That's because Eric Graham understood the assignment. He taught people through music. He didn't teach music to people. He understood intrinsically that by loving his students and making the choir room a safe place for creating art, he was winning. And he sent more students to CSULB. I'm sorry. And he sent more students to CSULB than any other high school teacher in the world. If you came to Long Beach State from Marina. Will you stand up? In Shannon's words, he understood that to be a great music teacher, you have to love people more than you love music. He wanted to connect with everyone, and he had a heart for people and for making connections. And he really, honest to God, didn't judge people. He really didn't, except for Giants, Astros, and White Sox fans. My friendship with Eric started right off the bat. I mean, we were 9 years apart in age, and he, being a transfer student, was able to go for a drink after rehearsal during a time where, as I mentioned, it wasn't forbidden or frowned upon for college professors and their students to go out and get a beer. He may have been slothful about schoolwork, but he was quick and inquisitive. He loved to ask me questions about music, about repertoire, about conducting, and about my impressions of his colleagues. He liked to gossip. And he was good at it. And he was bad at secrets. So just so you know, if you told Eric Graham anything that you thought or said about me between 2000 and 2005, he told me. And have I mentioned that Eric had uncannily good gaydar? And he liked to calibrate it against mine. Steve, he knew you were gay before you did. And he came to my office to jump up and down in joy when you came out. Eric Graham loved that he understood people better than they understood themselves. And he had a finger on the pulse of the choir. He came to my office once and said, "Hey, Talby, I think you should let up on the sopranos. They think you hate them." And then he said once, came to my office, like, "Hey, Talby, just so you know, the basses went to Pizza Mania today instead of having a sectional." So, yeah, Harper, your dad was a bit of a tattletale. But it was all for the good of the choir. And one last thing, as we heard earlier, Eric was really good at musical theater. Dennis Stockstader, who is Eric's friend from Arrow Bear, said to me once that Eric was the best pit conductor he had ever played for. Eric intrinsically understood tempo. He knew when to bring in the underscore. He could follow nervous singers, and he could gently guide the experience of the audience by leading the orchestra and stage performers with deftness and directness. His musicianship skills came together with his understanding of the human condition to let him guide a meaningful experience for performer and audience alike. His students would tell you that singing for him was like that. When I had my last beer and Laker game with Eric and with Dan Doctor last spring, I asked him if he had any regrets. He said his only regret was that he probably wouldn't be around a lot longer. But he immediately followed with, "I'm going to live as well as I can for as long as I can." Passed down through my Jewish family for generations, the greatest compliment you can get from a Talberg man is he knows how to live. And in the past tense, it's he knew how to live. Well, without question, I say Eric Graham knew how to live. Eins, zwei, drei.
Sifa. Prost.
Wow, Shannon, after Sing Me to Heaven, diabolical.
I had to like no, not right now, no, don't do it. Hello, my name is Charlie Carlos, or as Eric and many of you know, Carlos, either's fine. It's pick your poison. It's been wonderful hearing the stories and bonds each of you created with Eric over the years. I know there are many, many more stories in this room. Each of us as friends, as family, have unique relationships with each other. There are many similarities, similar experiences, but our connections are both shared and individual and special. I did not realize there were so many people up there too. This is insane. That's fantastic. I'd like to share a little of mine and Eric's. Eric and I met at CSU Elbree in the pre-BCCM years, having arrived at Cal State at about the same time, both as transfer students and being about the same age. Eric was just a couple months shy of a year younger than me. And I think that's what drew us together. That and our mutual love of choral music, of course. Eric often asked my opinion on music, on performances, conducting choices, things like that, after concerts, everything. And I appreciated that, and I always appreciate his opinions and thoughts as well. I'm sure he had, again, similar conversations with many of you in this room. Now, I don't have a funny story to share today. That's not to say that there aren't any funny stories. There were plenty of times when laughter and ridiculousness were involved, probably a little alcohol as well. I think Eric especially liked my sarcastic, dare I say, bitchy, I'm sorry, comments during rehearsals. I specifically remember him making a quip once at my expense, and after I slowly turned to him to shoot him a look, he just stared at me with that smile, just expecting a reaction from me. And I just shook my head and moved on. I laughed it off. But what I really hold dear, though, are all the heart-to-hearts we'd have. Just conversations on life, the future, friendships, relationships. I think he felt comfortable confiding in me and thought that I'd share an honest answer, which I did my best to do. More importantly, I felt comfortable confiding in him. He was one of the few people I felt I could truly be honest with regarding my own thoughts and feelings. And that was really big for me. Normally I'm rather guarded, especially at that time. So to have someone who not only would listen, but he would reach out. He could just see it on my face and just know that I needed to say something, had something on my mind. And he would just say, "What are you thinking?" And that was it, and we'd have a chat. There are so many special moments with Eric that I can mention. It's hard to pick one without feeling like I'm slighting another. The time Eric asked me to go visit for his first time at Apartment 5 and just chat, and I met Haley and had to leave immediately because of my allergies. But I was like, oh, that cat fetches. That's insane. Spending the last night on our San Francisco tour with Shannon and Eric, just walking all of San Francisco and just hanging out and laughing, and that was fantastic. Talking shop at the poker table with the guys. Oh hi, I remember oh hi. Of course, Shannon and Eric's wedding, and the reception after. Singing for his graduate recital. The Mendelssohn has become one of my favorite Christmas pieces. I listen to it every year, and I always think back. I'm so glad that he asked me to do that. And the time that he was a shoulder to cry on when I just had a drunken, emotional breakdown in China. I remember on a tour, though, once through Northern California, we all had our assigned housemates, or homestay mates, and mine was another good friend, Jose. It happened, though, that one night Eric and I got assigned together.
I didn't know how that happened. I told him I don't know what happened, but it's cool. Maybe Jose got over me and just needed a break. But it's cool that we get to hang out one night. But it turns out that he had arranged it that way. He had been in charge of those housemate assignments, and he wanted to be sure that we had at least one night on the tour together. And it was great. We just hung out. We took a walk. We laughed. We talked about what? I don't remember. There might have been an adult cigar involved. But it was just a bonding experience. And he was like that. That simple act that step that he took, it was just, he was always taking that step. Reaching out just to hang out or just to check in. And I wish I had done that more, but I'm glad that he took up the slack. Shannon, I love you from day one. And Harper and your family are so important to me. Care Bear Stare. And Derek, I thank you for being the friend I didn't know I needed. And I love you, brother.
Wow, so that's a ton of memories, awesome things you guys are saying. I can't talk about singing. I'm just gonna step back and just throw a song out there real quick. No, not this guy, sorry. Not me, not happening. So you're welcome. I didn't really know him either. He kind of just asked me to come up here and say a couple words. So I don't really have much to say. Pretty much I just told him to embarrass him. Kidding, sorry. My brother Eric. I mean, he's my cousin, but he's basically my other brother. My brother Jason and Eric, the three of us together is a huge part of our life. He spent many summers with us. We'd hang out and just had great times together. And my phone's messing up. I don't have just one story to say, so I'll just throw out a couple of quick ones and save some time maybe. Like Jason had said, we hung out a lot. And as our life progressed, there was a lot of things, like the junior high and high school, that we went through. We got along great, but of course, I was really good at lighting his fuse as well, being his brother. And like seriously, it would get to the point where he would just say, "Shut up." And so I would. I mean, he had every right to say that. We had great times, amazing times. One thing that really kind of digs into my head is this movie called Bomb Guy 3. Anybody else seen Bomb Guy 3? Okay, you're going to. Have you seen it? You're gonna see it. I need to dig it up if you don't have a copy. I need to find it and maybe share that. Maybe. I have to watch it again. It's been a while. But anyways, it was a movie that we put together when he was in high school. I was like a senior year or something like that probably. And so, yeah, we put this thing together for one of his classes. Chris, who's sitting over there, and I worked with him. He kind of like produced it, ran the whole story, went around through mostly Long Beach, but we actually had some time in Lakewood and also in Seal Beach. And it was great, to the point where he went and edited it at school. Like, I think they have this little room you sit down and you're supposed to do it in like an hour, but it came to the point where his teacher shut down the room, so it was just Eric running the whole entire thing, and I think some other students had to kind of maybe come back a different day. But it turned out awesome. Like I said, I think I have a copy. I'm going to dig that up and maybe I'll just share it with the local folks, some of us. And another thing that happened in life that really stands out to me, probably like one of the best things ever, is we went out on a date one time with, again, Chris, myself, Eric, and then three girls when we were back in high school. We were in high school at that time. And we met up and we went out to this movie called Milk Money. Anybody remember Milk Money? Yeah, exactly. So we went to this movie called Milk Money at the Rossmore Theater that doesn't live there anymore also. And one of the people that was there as well was Gina Baker, my wife. So thank you, Eric. Thank you very much. I was honored to have him several years later as my groomsman, one of my groomsmen. And so again, that was like 25 years later that I bless him for that. Thank you. Thank you very much, Eric. And then as we moved along, we moved into college, and that's when I think he met a lot of other folks in here, like, I don't know, maybe 7/8 of the folks that I'm seeing here. And he and I didn't connect as much back then. We became more like cousins and family. And that was kind of a sad time, but nonetheless, we still connected. And then cancer came along. And it was really hard, and it's really weird to say this, but that bonded us back together again. That brought the two of us back together. I'm shaking, I can't stop, I'm sorry. That was the bond for us, a big bond. Within a few months, the two of us were both diagnosed. And because of that, he and I spent a lot of time together. We would go to lunch once a week or so, and oftentimes it was at Taco Beach, which was my place, and on the other side of the street, he'd be at Kennedy's. That was his place. So we'd get together, we'd hang out, good times. We had a lot of great conversations. As a lot of you have said, he was in a different world. He had a different perspective of so many things. And he brought me to that same place. I still have a crazy mind that goes in all kinds of different perspectives, but he really helped me a lot. And he and I would have a lot of conversations about cancer, about different perspectives that he helped me kind of understand some of that stuff. So, anyways, I'll be done here. Eric, I'm glad you're up there, as rude as that sounds, but you're in a better place. And enjoy your dad. Enjoy my dad. Did you guys hear that? Nobody heard anything? Oh, sorry. It was Eric. I just heard him real quick, and he told me, Jared, shut up.
Hello, everybody. My name is Cole Temple, and I am from the graduating class of 2017 from Marina. I'm going to introduce our last song that we are singing tonight, and I think the best way to do that is through a story. The night before our annual Wassail concert, my senior year, I decided to hang back and watch Eric and the lighting technician program the lights for the show. I had pretty well decided that I wanted to be a choir director, and I wanted to learn about all the nitty-gritty stuff that it took to be a good choir director. And as I sat next to him in the pew listening to him go through what seemed to be every single possible combination of lights and colors, and I'm pretty sure there were candy canes, snowmen, and all manner of winter things on our walls at the time. It was a lot. After about 2 hours of changing the light positions and colors, it finally seemed like he was happy with how it looked. And on the way out of the church, I looked at him and I asked, "Is this really what I have to look forward to?" It's 11:30 p.m. and we have class tomorrow at 7 a.m. Really? And he kind of looked at me, he smiled, and he said, "Yeah, man, it's tough, but it's all part of keeping the traditions, making the family proud." I took what I saw Dr. Talberg do with Winterfest and made it work for us. When one of you guys becomes choir directors, I hope that there's some part of this concert that you take and put into yours. And yes, the lights are definitely a part of that. He showed us every day what it meant to be a great educator. He cared for all of his students, which is evident in all the Marina alum here today. And while I'm on that subject, can all my Marina alum please stand and make your way to the sides of the hall? Thank you very much. This arrangement of Peace, Peace is how we would send our audiences into the holiday season and end our concert. There's a lot of us here. Feel free to come down. Feel free to come down. Yeah, connect. This arrangement is how we would send off our audiences into their holiday season. This song is our tradition. I hope that it brings you a slice of the comfort that it brought me every year, singing this to my best friends in a community of musicians where I felt safe, loved, and accepted for who I was. Thank you, Mr. Graham, for everything you've given each and every single one of your students.
I don't know why I have to speak right after these beautiful songs. I do not care for the schedule. Clearly, Eric was very, very loved, and we appreciate you guys being here today. And he was an eclectic guy, baseball nerd, fabulous musician, knew a lot about cigars. Appreciate you guys being here. In your program, you'll see this blue piece of paper, QR code with some instructions. It's a way to maybe tell a story, share a memory, and this will get to Shannon and Harper so they can view it at their leisure. So please take that with you. We would really like it if you participate in that. We do have some light refreshments where we can go and share some more Eric stories, maybe stories we're not comfortable saying in a church. I got a couple of those. But if you wouldn't mind, we're going to let the family get out of here first. And you guys can follow right behind. Thank you.